All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Ask Me Anything ALS, where we will learn about the impact of writing on well-being and also tips for starting to write. For those of you who are new to I Am ALS, we are the largest community movement made up of the very people living with, impacted by, and highly motivated to end ALS. We are laser focused on revolutionizing the path for development and access to treatments and cures, mobilizing and empowering advocates to raise awareness and resources for ALS, and providing critical support and resources to those living with ALS, their caregivers, and loved ones. We are delighted to have you all here today. A few housekeeping items before we start. Please keep your microphones muted if you are not speaking to minimize any background noise. Today's session includes a discussion led by Emily Sorbonne, who is the co-lead for the Scribes of Strength community team at IMALS. And our panelists today include Juan Escalera, Randy Gregory, Will Greenfield, Juan Reyes, Deborah Winters, and Liz Vassler. Please add any questions you have in the chat, and we will do our best to get to all of them, time permitting. Any questions that are not addressed during the session today will be answered by your panelists afterward, and the responses will be sent to everyone who signed up for today's session. And I already hit record. We will be recording today's session, and we'll share it through the IMALS YouTube channel. And with that, I would love to turn it over to Emily for today's session.
Thanks, Aditi. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ask Me Anything session focused on exploring writing within the ALS community. My name is Emily Sorbonne. I'm a member of the IMALS Scribes of Strength team, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today. Writing can be a powerful way to express ourselves, share our stories, and connect with others. Whether you're an experienced writer or someone who's never put pen to paper, this session is for you, and we're glad you're here. Now, I'm thrilled to introduce to you our incredible panel today. I'll start with giving you a little bit of an introduction of each person, and I will begin with the one and only Juan. Juan Reyes. Juan Reyes is an ardent advocate for those suffering from ALS, having been diagnosed in October of 2015. Juan served 21 years in the United States Air Force as an independent duty medical technician and clinic superintendent. Post-retirement, Juan held a position with Battle Memorial Institute as a defense contractor. As a CBRNE Emergency Medical Disaster Response Manager for 13 Air Force hospitals and clinics. This was followed by serving as the Executive Director for the San Antonio, Texas Salvation Army Area Command, responsible for execution of all services delivered to the entire community of San Antonio and the surrounding area. Currently, Juan is focused on improving services, research, and quality of life for ALS patients. He has shared insights with medical students and other healthcare professionals, enhancing understanding of ALS patient needs. His efforts have also taken him to our nation's capital, engaging elected officials on behalf of patients. As a patient mentor, Juan aids newly diagnosed patients navigating this devastating diagnosis. Juan actively serves on committees locally and nationally, including IMALS, NEALS Consortium, and the ALS MND International Alliance. Juan also serves as a patient ambassador for Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America, the makers of Radicava. Juan lives with his family in Castroville, Texas. Now on to our next panelist, Deb Winters. Deb has been living life abundantly since her ALS diagnosis in March of 2022. With a slow progressing limb onset form of ALS, she lives with her husband, Howard, in Huntington, West Virginia. Together, they have 6 children and a multitude of grandchildren, and they enjoy doing ministry together and traveling. She believes that the Lord numbers her days, not statistics, and she would use every day to make a difference in the lives of people living with ALS. Deba's hope for tomorrow was born from the knowledge that hope is difficult to find in an ALS diagnosis, and a life without hope and purpose was not one she chose to live. A ferocious advocate, she lives life to the fullest every day, her commitment to her cause unwavering and inspiring. The next panelist, Randy Gregory. My name is Randy Gregory Jr. I was diagnosed with sporadic ALS, limb onset right arm in 2011. I have 5 adult children and 2 grandchildren. I live in Baltimore, Maryland. I have been an ALS advocate since 2012, volunteering with I Am ALS for the past year. And then we come to Will Greenfield. My name is Wilbert Greenfield, and I'm 54 years old. I live with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. I've been living in Washington, D.C. for over 35 years and have been an active part of the city for a long time. I graduated from college with degrees in chemistry, biology, and worked as a scientist for 8 years. But writing wasn't really my thing back then. I was diagnosed with ALS in 2006 when I was 34. My family and caregivers have been incredibly important to me and have helped me live a full life. As the disease progressed, I made a difficult decision in 2017 to extend my life by getting a tracheotomy and living on life support. I've been incredibly lucky these past 19 years. My journey has taught me so many things that I never would have thought possible. Reading and writing have become my new passions. Next, we have Juan Escalera. Hi, my name is Juan Escalera, and I've been living with ALS for 11 years. I'm a mentor and peer support specialist based in New Jersey, where I live with my beautiful wife and daughter. I have a rare genetic form of ALS, and I'm a ATXN2 gene carrier. For the past 3 years, I've been actively involved with I Am ALS, focusing primarily on support and empowerment within the community. Through both writing and visual art, I use creative expression as a powerful tool for advocacy, bringing awareness to ALS and amplifying the voices of those affected. My work reflects not only my personal journey, but also a deep commitment to inspiring hope and connection. And last but not least, we have Liz Fassler. After noticing weakness while running and hiking and then experiencing falls, Liz was diagnosed late in 2019 at 46 years old. She lives with her husband in Vancouver, Washington, a suburb of Portland, Oregon. She is a veteran deployed to the Middle East during the Gulf War era. She immediately joined the support groups of ALS Northwest, participating in their walk and ski events. She shares her story to inform and fundraise on behalf of the organization. She continued to work as a special education teacher until early 2023, using speech and mobility supports. A few months later, she joined I Am ALS to continue learning and expanding her advocacy. Liz is a member of the Veterans Team and attends a support group for veterans. She's a member also of the Scribes of Strength and trained as a peer mentor. Her passion is serving as a panelist on the Tim Lowry panels, where she can continue to educate others. She is a NEALS Research Ambassador, serving on additional committees. She is a founding member of Honey Badger Collective and Veterans ALS Action Committee. She engages in other opportunities to educate and engage people about living with ALS. So, writing offers many benefits. As we get into the questions, I'll start out by kind of talking a little bit about the overview of the topic. Writing offers many benefits, especially for those living with ALS. It can be a therapeutic outlet, a way to raise awareness about our experiences, and a means to leave a personal legacy. Today, we'll talk about how to start writing, how to find inspiration, and how to overcome common fears around writing. So thanks to the panelists and thanks to everyone for attending. and we will start the questions. So the first question we have is, how did you begin writing? And we will start at the top with Juan Reyes.
I actually started writing in May of 2016 following a conference to Washington, D.C. on ALS advocacy. During that month, I had the opportunity to meet others who were raising and sharing their voice for advocacy. And I was inspired by them. Some are still active in the community. Unfortunately, many we have lost. So I committed myself to sharing my journey by writing every day during the month of May, which is ALS Awareness Month. I started very crudely by just sharing simple facts about ALS, my feelings, my emotions, and what I was experiencing physically. And for some reason, it was well received. And so I continued to the point of becoming more prolific in my writing. As it evolved, I began to improve my skill as a writer by engaging with other writers and creators and learning from them. And it resulted in my having enough material to compile a book which I published last month. And it's available through Amazon, a Kindle, and as a paperback. So never doubt that you can accomplish great things by just taking that first step of sharing what your journey is with the public. And it has the possibility of impacting more than one person. That's how I got started.
Thank you, Juan. How about you, Deb?
I actually got started not when I had ALS, but in 2008, my husband died unexpectedly of a hemorrhagic stroke 4 days before Christmas. And the chaos that ensued in my heart, in my mind, in so many places had little opportunity to get out until I started writing. And in the first few months of the year, I filled 3 journals of just pouring out emotions, pouring out what I was feeling and thinking and the changes that were going on in my life. And it was incredibly uplifting for me to be able to have a place that I could not be judged, not have to worry about my grammar, not have to worry about anything that was um, correct. I could just write my heart. And to be able to do that and go back the next week and just read the telling part for me was a year later when I went back and read what I had written. I was amazed not only at what I had gone through, but what I had learned, how I had grown, and the difference that I was experiencing now as compared to when I wrote those things. And just seeing that gave me a foundation, a basis to work from that said, wow, look, this makes a difference. And it did make a difference for me every day as I was writing and then as I used it for reflection.
Thank you for sharing that, Deb. Randy, do you have your response prepared?
Hello, shy now. We see you blush, eh?
Maybe as Randy prepares his response, we can move.
I began writing approximately 5 years after being diagnosed with ALS. I started with an autobiography and have evolved into sharing experiences I have had in living with ALS since 2011.
Thank you, Randy. We have Will. Will next.
Hello, everyone. I'm a newbie to the group. I've been writing for I guess about maybe 8 years now. I'm a chemist and mathematician, so all my skills in picking up the pen is organic compounds and numbers. So when I was in the nursing home, I got my first eye gaze device, and my SOP encouraged me to write a journal every morning. It wasn't long speeches, but just paragraphs about my daily activities and how I felt. So that's how I started writing. And then later on, I would incorporate into that my, like, remember when I used to do things. So I would dip into my past and um, write like funny stories about things that I have encountered. So that's how I actually began writing. But right now I'm still new. I haven't really published anything or brought anything to life. So yeah, I'm just happy to find this new way of enjoying activities, and writing and reading is very encouraging me to move on.
Thanks, Will. Next, Juana Scalera. How did you begin writing?
I've been writing since high school, but I didn't dedicate much time to it as an adult. A few years after receiving my ALS diagnosis, I picked it up again, this time to leave something of myself.
Thank you, Juan. And then we have Liz.
I was quite the creative writer growing up, and while I was still in school. Life gets busy. But it was not until I joined IMALS and then at least a year after that I started in the Scribes of Strength. And it was there that I learned not to set so many expectations on myself. And so I've been writing, but in different forms.
Thank you, Liz. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Back to Juan Reyes. How does writing make you feel?
I'll be honest, it depends on the object or the topic. There are some pieces that I'm compelled to write until I'm done with that piece. There are other times that it takes me days or even weeks to finish a piece because I have so many thoughts or emotions that are swirling around the topic that I can't focus on the words that are satisfying to get the message across. I'll be honest that there are times that I'm in tears writing what I'm feeling because it's a reminder of my mortality and the pain and suffering that I'm experiencing emotionally and spiritually. But it's also a reflection of the pain and suffering of others. Because there are, there are times when I'm writing on a topic or subject that I heard someone else mention, perhaps in conversation or in a forum or meeting, and it strikes a chord with me, and so I'll make a note of it and then expand on what that topic is. And there are times when I am sharing so vulnerably that the tears just flow. And of course, I have to have someone blow my nose and gleam my eyes. Otherwise, I can't see the screen to continue writing. and finish the piece. So there are many emotions that come to the surface when I write, and they drive the language, the tone, and sometimes the message itself.
Thanks, Juan. I know Deb is having some technical difficulties. Are you able to answer the next question, Deb? I don't even know. Okay. So let's just, while we wait for Deb, maybe we can move to Randy.
When writing about my experiences in living with ALS, I feel like I am writing for a purpose. The purpose of sharing information that could possibly be helpful to other people who are living with ALS.
Thank you, Randy. Will?
Yeah, this is a fun question. So, I've learned a lot about my emotions when I write. Normally I write in the middle of the night when everything is quiet. It's quiet around me, so sometimes I feel happy, depends on what I'm writing about. It's something funny, or sometimes I feel sad where I'm crying and depressed on a certain topic. But normally, the most part would be is when I'm writing about my spiritual growth. That really triggers my happiness and my faith in God. But there's some times when I write about my past, and I would say things that I used to do, that kind of gets me depressed and sad. So I mix emotions when I do write. So it just depends on what topics I write about and how it makes me feel.
Thanks, Will. Juana Escalera.
What I write often reflects how I'm feeling in that moment. Writing helps me release some of the stress brought on by ALS.
Thanks, Juan. And then we have Liz. How does writing make you feel?
So I'm a little different. I tend to write when I need to center or organize or process things. And I often feel better after I write. It just gives me time to take a breath and really give myself time to consider what is driving me to write at that moment.
Thank you, Liz. I just want to read David's comment in the chat. David Dubois, writing my blog allows me help and teach others about ALS and my journey. I think that's a great outlet for you there, and I bet a lot of people agree with you on that. So now we kind of shift from how writing makes you feel to actually writing. And our next question addresses, how do you decide what to write about? And we go back to Juan Reyes.
I've mentioned this before, and I try to share on topics that, one, I feel are important to me emotionally, spiritually, or perhaps just to share information about living with ALS. Often I will listen during other events, meetings, conversations, etc. And I'll hone in on a topic that someone shares that elicits a response from the audience. And that clues me in to the fact that perhaps the community needs to hear about that topic. And then I try to decide what angle I'm going to approach it from. And often I'll begin with a title, and the piece will build from the title, because the title drives the entire thought. It has to catch the audience attention from the get-go. And then I try to build the piece with language that creates a visual image in the reader's mind. It's up to them to interpret how they envision the story. But I lay the foundation by using descriptive language, alliteration, perhaps quotes that support the idea or the concept. But often it may start with a single word like pain, surrender, love, anything could be a catalyst for a short poem, a short story, or a lengthy blog post.
Thank you, Juan. Deb, let me know when you have your audio back. Otherwise, I will move on to Randy.
It almost looks like we have lost
experiences I have had in live. The experiences I have had in living with ALS influences me what to write about. For example, traveling as a person living with ALS can be very challenging, especially as the disease progresses. Being on this journey for approximately 15 years, I have had airplane and accessible vehicle travels without assistive devices, and with them, I would feel awful not sharing my knowledge with others. God created people to help others, especially in the time of need.
Thank you, Randy. Will?
Okay, normally I write about my journey, experiences, traveling, doctor visits, just anything that's going on in my life. I also get insight from some of the support groups I'm in and listen to their stories and then piggybacking off of experiences that I've gone through. For instance, one lady, her husband didn't want to get in the power of will to. He refused. So I remember when I first got my power to, and I didn't want to use it at all to be seen. So I have a chapter that I wrote that it states that I need to get up and get in that chair so I can get more. So yeah, there's some ways that I get ideas of writing to various groups that I'm in.
Thanks, Will. Juan Escalera.
I mostly use writing as a tool for my ALS advocacy. I focus on things I've experienced throughout my journey, aiming to share those stories with the public and the ALS community. I don't stick to a specific topic. I write what's on my mind in the moment.
Thanks, Juan. Liz, your turn.
So the writing that I'm doing currently or the last year is usually at someone's request or an assignment or as a gift. I was a young lady that was working on the equivalent of an Eagle Scout certification, but in Girl Scouts, wanted to publish a book of poems written by people with disabilities. And so I wrote for her book, and it was published last year. And then sometimes like a gift, Juan Reyes and his wife Meg travel quite a lot, and we were celebrating them, and I sent along a few haikus to them as like a gift. I did originally set out to do memoirs or just top of mind and as like a legacy project. But I was hard on myself for not keeping up on that. I do admire everyone with blogs and how you are able to put out content so regularly. But that is the writing that I've been doing recently.
Thanks, Liz. And now we're down to our last core question. So I'm not a writer. How do I get over my fear of writing? Juan Reyes.
You're gonna hate me for this answer. You never do get over your fear of writing. Every time I put my mind to writing a piece, I feel like an imposter. I feel like it's gonna be the worst thing ever. That is not worthy of my time and effort. I struggle sometimes to get the words out because in my mind, they don't do justice to what I'm trying to share. So, like Lynn mentioned in his comment, you have to embrace that fear and let it drive you through your blocks and mental barriers. Don't be afraid. Write a letter to yourself, a letter to your child, a letter to yourself as a child. Write out a comic book script, anything, as long as you put your thoughts and feelings down on paper. Sometimes you can just write freely, anything and everything that pops into your mind. It's not gonna make any sense to you or anyone else, but you're practicing your ability to put your thoughts down and outside of your head. That's a simple exercise. You might be amazed that your flow might be a bestseller. You never know. Or it could be something straight out of a bad acid trip. You never know.
Thanks, Juan. Just to address some of the comments in the chat. Juan says, writing can and often does release the pain and anguish we feel. It can also be a service to others, like a gift. Lynn says, embrace your fear. Juan E says, fear is not real. Ellen says, when I coach people on writing, I advised I don't think about what you want to write, just write down what you are thinking. And then I just put yay haikus because I'm a fan of haikus. And Liz says, y'all got me started on those. And we're caught up. Okay, let's move on to Randy.
Though I do not consider myself a writer, I do not have a fear of writing. Writing for a purpose is my inspiration. Hoping that my writings will be helpful for others, I have no fear in sharing. God did not equip people with fear, but with his power, strength, and a sound mind.
Thank you, Randy. Will, you're next.
Randy, you stole my words. So, writing helped me accept ALS. ALS does not define who will be grateful me. And I said I fear no evil. Writing helps me to inspire other people, and I write like I'm talking to my best friend. So yeah, I have no fear for writing.
Juan Escalera.
A lot of people are afraid to write, but fear shouldn't hold you back. Writing is one of the most powerful things you can do. The stories in your mind might support someone else in ways you never expected. Through writing, you can express hope, love, and a sense of understanding that only you can bring to life. If you allow fear to control your thoughts, you may never realize how deeply your words could impact someone's life.
Thanks, Juan. Liz?
So obviously, writing is very individual. It is not a group event, but I was stuck in as much as I didn't think I was good or I didn't know where to begin, even though I've done this before. And that's why I joined a group like Scribes of Strength. There is strength in numbers. And I heard other people's writings and I learned from others. I learned to love haikus. And so find yourself a group of like-minded people that support what you're interested in. I mean, ALS is already so isolating. So it's a win-win to join like a writing group.
Thanks, Liz. Just to catch up in the chat, Juan says words, Lynn says wordy words help to fill out the page. Pamela says, I was diagnosed with bulbar onset ALS in September 2024, and I've lost my speaking voice and ability to swallow. I've written 41 posts as a weekly newsletter. Ellen says, wonderful. Is there a link you can share? And then Pamela shared the link with us. Now we're opening it up so we can hear from you. What questions do you have about writing? Or if you feel comfortable, would you like to share a sentence or two that you have written?
My name is Jeff Ballard. I was diagnosed in 2017. I have a slow progression. I did lots of writing in the business field, memos and correspondence and position papers, but never really wrote for a purpose personally. A few years ago, I was thinking about my legacy and in particular about my grandchildren and grandchildren that I don't have yet on my son's side at least. And I was thinking they're not gonna know much about their grandfather. And I would like them to know about me and my life experiences. And I had a grandmother who was famous, and several books were written about her from the 1800s. And so I know a lot about that woman, and I said, all right, well, my grandkids, I would like to know about me. So I started to write a memoir, and I used a platform called Storybook. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. I see head bobbing, but that got me over the fear of blank page to starting to write a book, because it provided a format and easy means to accomplish the task. And so I started with the intent to just write about my the basic history, where I was born, and pretty vanilla topics. And then I get into sharing memories and adventures, and that expanded into philosophical topics, how I felt about spirituality, death, dying, life lessons learned. So I found the entire process at the end quite cathartic, and writing it allowed me to, as many have said earlier, writing allowed me to process and organize complex feelings that I was going through, and it became an outlet. And having the physical book also created, when you hand a physical book to somebody about your life, it's actually quite an intimate experience and rewarding, because you're giving them a piece of you, and they think highly of you for willing to share it. I joined this forum simply because I'm thinking of starting a different endeavor and focusing more on my ALS journey versus my life journey. But again, my conclusion is I started writing with a very limited purpose. But once I got into it, I realized it was much broader benefits for me to write, and I certainly recommend it for others to just get started. The storybook worked for me, but you can start anywhere with a blog or correspondence or journal, anything. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Jeff. Let me catch up a little bit in the chat. Randy says very valid purpose, Jeff. Your grandchildren will love it. And then Juan says words like whispers and hurricanes, butterfly kisses on the soul shape the landscape of us. Ellen says, what a great purpose, Jeff. I want to know who this famous ancestor is. That's what I want to know.
Name is Martha Ballard, and she's the topic of A Midwife's Tale. It was a Pulitzer Prize winning book about a midwife in the late 1700s.
Okay.
And she's my 8th generation grandmother. And as she kept meticulous journals, I know everything she was thinking for most of her adult life.
So cool. I'm gonna look her up for sure. Julie says adds to reading list. Ditto, Julie. And then Ellen says, was that Martha Ballad? I think I just put the New England accent.
Even my accent comes out, even with my ALS voice.
Thanks. Do we have anybody else? Pamela says, great. My latest post this week was ALS being hit by flying poop. I am staying at the CCALS retreat center in Falmouth, Massachusetts. And I was dive bombed by a robin when I got too close to her nest. I thought it was a perfect image for what it feels like to be told you have ALS. And then Ellen says, now I need to know where from. My people hail from, I'm going to butcher this, Damariscotta, Maine?
Damariscotta.
Oh, Damariscotta.
Damariscotta, Maine.
And then Julie says Bostonian here, Jeff.
I'm a former Mainer myself.
From
Manchester, near Augusta.
All right. It's like should we close it out, Aditi?
Sure.
Okay, looks like we're at time now. So let's see. So the resources and next steps, will you be putting those in the chat?
Resources are all the things that were shared in chat today. So
Okay.
we'll be sure to send an email with all of the incredible blogs that were shared here today. And I also want to add a link to the Scribes of Strength blog, which is also a must read and a must subscribe if you aren't already subscribed to it. And IMALS also has a blog where we feature some of our incredible writers from Scribes of Strength. So I'll add a link in chat to that as well. And last but not least, if you would like to join the Scribes of Strength team, we would love to have you. And I will include a link in chat for that. And you're also welcome to email either Emily, Patrick, or myself at any time if you are interested in learning more about the Scribes of Strength team. Or are interested even in just dropping in for one session before you decide whether you'd like to commit or not.
So a big thank you to all of you for joining us today and for your courage in exploring writing. Remember, your voice is important and writing can be a wonderful way to share it. We look forward to seeing what you create. So thank you all again. Please, we encourage you to write, for whatever reason it may be. And please share, what you feel like you need to share. So I just want to wish everybody a wonderful evening. Thanks again for taking the time out of your schedule to attend our meeting. It looks like Kate has her hand up. Kate? Was that an accident? Oh, that was an accident. Yeah, so thank you all again. Have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to maybe seeing some of your faces at a team meeting. Good night, everyone.
Thank you all so much.